Sweet. Oh, I'm loving this already. I'm Nick Palumbo and I serve as the 4th District Alderman here in the city of Savannah. Well, the story of the Globe really is the story of Savannah's South Side and a gateway to our city. Starting in 1955 when it was built, it's a piece of remarkable and monumental industrial architecture here in our city and was always a gateway to South Side communities, including Kensington Park, Windsor Forest, Fairway Oaks, and much, much more. And it was a very functional piece of design. This played a key role in distributing natural gas to households throughout Savannah, especially on our south side. But right after it was built, a young family and the Turner family comes across it, based here in Savannah, and has this idea to turn it into a piece of outdoor advertising, which really hadn't been done before. And Turner Outdoor Advertising gets its start really intertwined with the history of our globe, and painting it as the globe, not as we see it today, but as this piece, this very colorful piece of architecture right on Savannah's South Side to sell it for outdoor advertising. And thus the Globe was born.
My name is Miriam. I was born in Savannah, Georgia, August the 10th, 1926. I was born at my grandparents' house, 215 West Charlton Street. My mother couldn't get to the hospital, so I came out in a hurry. Well, the mid-50s was post-World War II, so I think Savannah was just beginning to build houses and people own homes instead of renting. And the economy was picking up because it was after the war and all the men came home, and there was a happiness in Savannah then. Well, people would just go by and watch it. It was a sightseeing thing just to watch it being built and painted. You know, men going up there and painting the entire world. It was interesting. Everybody was watching it and watching. Well, that was like almost the country out there, because people would drive across Durin. They were like in another world. And it was, well, Savannah didn't have that many exciting things. A lot of servicemen from Hunter Field would come there too. That was a meeting place for them, to eat at that restaurant and watch the Globe being built.
Well, what you're looking at when you approach the Globe is a 60-foot diameter steel ball called a Horton Sphere. And a Horton Sphere was named for the founder of the Chicago Iron and Bridge Company. And that was what they built as these industrial distribution sites. And they were located all across the United States to deliver natural gas, oil, liquefied natural gas, any hazardous materials that are out there that needed a distribution point. And they were very functional, but they were beautiful and beloved. It is that outdoor painting as the Globe that saves it as a beloved structure and generates so much public interest. But time and time again, these historic moments for our city would come to fruition. There was the movie Forces of Nature that was filmed there, Santa Claus that landed on top of the Globe, and of course the most famous proposal in Savannah's history is Superman proposing to his wife right at the Globe site.
I'm Roger, and I proposed to my wife on top of the Globe. When I met my wife, she was just, I was head over heels in love. And she was wonderful and unlike anyone else I'd ever met. So the idea was to really do something that hadn't been done before. She was a very unique person, and when we met, we just couldn't stay apart. It was that, we fell in love right away. So I wanted to do something over the top, and racked my brain trying to think of something, unique to do. And I was driving by the Globe one day, and I looked up, and I'm like, that could be something.
I'm Karima, and my husband proposed to me on the Globe in 2001. So I was cutting hair. I'm a hairstylist, and I was in the middle of doing a haircut when someone showed up and asked if Karima Baraka at the time was here, and I said, yeah, it's me. And he's like, well, you need to come with me. He had a limousine set up in front of the shop, and I looked at my boss. I'm like, am I supposed to go? And she's like, yeah, go ahead. I said, well, I'm in the middle of a haircut. She's like, well, go ahead and finish it and then leave.
So I had to think of something of a way I was going to get her away from work without her recognizing what I was doing. So I started working with her friends, and I worked with her boss, and we put a bunch of fake appointments on her book that day. So by the time they told her to go ahead and get in the limo, she's like, I still got 4 or 5 more people to, on my appointment book, but they're all fake. So they put her in the limo and brought her there. And
so we got into the limousine, and I wasn't very far from the Globe because I worked right there actually on Stevenson. And when we got there, here he was on top of the globe with his Superman outfit and his cape flowing in the air, and it was just amazing. We came out and there was a bunch of other people out there with cameras, and I felt like a star. And I also thought it was kind of crazy, but it was awesome to see him up there. And he had a microphone, read a beautiful poem, and proposed. And I was down at the bottom with his best friend. He's the one who gave me flowers and a ring. So that was the best day ever.
What's unusual about this Horton Sphere, it is the largest that they offered in their catalog, and at 60-foot diameter, it is such a logistical challenge working with it, and that's why so many of them have been removed across the country. Well, it's truly a testament to this company and to Parker's, and to Greg Parker specifically, for his ability to save this beloved landmark.
My first store was in Midway, Georgia. I was 21, right out of the University of Georgia. I was finishing the construction of the store, opened at January 1st, 1976. I was a big tennis player, and so I would come to Savannah for exercise and for my own entertainment. And I was, felt this gravitational pull to get to Savannah. And over the years, we built our first store in Savannah, then we built another, and then another, and then another. And then I moved to Savannah and established our corporate headquarters here. When we were looking for sites in Savannah, we knew that there were these key points of traffic. And the site there at the intersection of White Bluff, Durin, Abercorn is a gateway entrance to our community. And it was an absolute eyesore. Most of the businesses were closed, a lot of homelessness, lots of trash. It was terrible. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could have a Parker's at this incredible location? And on top of that, it had that iconic globe on it. And I've got to tell you, when I first saw it, I thought, we're going to have to get rid of that globe. It's going to be hard for us to develop the site. And then Allison Hirsch, who's head of my PR company, comes to me and says, this is really meaningful to so many people in Savannah. It's been used in movies and people just love the globe. And then after that, Nick Palumbo, who was the alderman for that area, came to see me. We went to lunch and he said, Greg, we really need to preserve the globe.
It was a very unusual experience to take the most successful Savannian out to lunch, but I took him out to the Firefly Cafe, and I remember my hands were sweating and I was nervous, and I'm going to have to ask somebody to take their property and save a 60-foot diameter steel ball. How do you do that? How do you make that ask? But of course, he was incredibly gracious and generous and understood, and he had a lot of questions because there were so many challenges on the site. It just hadn't been done before. There's no guidebook, there's no rule book out there, there's no how to save a Horton Sphere that's out there in existence. But if there's anybody that can tackle a one-of-a-kind challenge, it's Greg and it's Parker's and it's his team.
So I got together with my team and I said, is this really doable? Because we didn't know. It was a natural gas tank. So we hired structural engineers. We had to spend, I think it was $28,000, making sure that the globe was going to be able to stand up to hurricane force winds and that sort of things. And we made the decision within our company that even if we have to change the way the site is going to lay out, we've got to preserve the globe. So we originally were going to have Chick-fil-A on the corner and then Parker's, and then after that Starbucks. But it was impossible to fit that on the site. So the site really presented a lot of challenges. It had been a former dry cleaner site. The soil was really bad, so we had to put pylons in the soil, and we had to work with the Environmental Protection Agency to make sure that we were doing things right to be responsible developers. But we figured out that if we moved the Starbucks to the middle, we're able to do the drive-through around the globe and therefore preserve the globe. So we were really excited about that. And then we started looking for what are we going to do with the globe. And everybody has an opinion about what we should do. It should be white the way it was before. We were looking at doing digital imagery on the globe. There were a lot of things that went into the decision-making matrix. But the important thing for us, and the thing that we learned, is that we needed to preserve this iconic globe, not only for us, but for Savannah. And there's so many great stories that I've heard since about people that got engaged at the globe or they had their pictures taken at the globe. All these things have gone on. So we felt a responsibility to preserve it.
I was just so proud to see him willing to take on that challenge and to partner together. And we stood together, City of Savannah and Parker's, to do everything possible, traffic engineering, routing the different rights-of-way, easements, access, infrastructure, whatever it took to save this beloved landmark. including exploring different options to relocate it if it came to that. And thank goodness it did not. The very best result was always going to be that it was going to be preserved on site. And it's just a beautiful, outstanding addition and a wonderful story of preservation that we've never seen before.